Now, Destruction Light Cones have some very powerful 3-star options. Collapsing Sky here can give you up to a 20 to 40% boost in your damage on your basic as well as your skills. So this is going to be very nice to just get out and buff up your non-follow-ups and your non-ultimates. These are the skills you're going to be using the most often early in Honkai Star Rail. Mutual Demise here is going to give you a crit rate boost as long as the wearer's current HP is less than 80%. So if you take a little bit of damage, you can get up from 12 to 24 at superimposition level 5 here. But just be aware that if you're in a team and you notice that your destruction character is well above 80% HP, a lot of the time, this card will not be good for you because you need to be under 80% to get that benefit. But if you're looking for another card that also can boost your crit rate, Under the Blue Sky is going to give you crit rate of 12% at superimposition level 1 for 3 turns when the wearer of this light cone defeats an enemy. It's also going to give you a nice little attack buff of 16%. This is a fantastic catch-all destruction card because critting in this game is something you're going to want to do to boost your damage. And speaking of crits and boosting damage, in a free-to-play card at that, we have On the Fall of an Aeon, which is the destruction light cone you can buy from the Herda's store in the simulated universe. This is going to give you a bunch of attack stacks and also increasing the damage of the wearer when you do inflict weakness break on an enemy. And since this is from Herda's store, you'll eventually be able to get up to level 5. Just keep in mind, we're going to have some other Herda store options for the other paths in this video. Now, some of the rarer cards and also ones locked behind a little bit of money is the Battle Pass card, Nowhere to Run, which is going to give you an attack bonus. And also on top of that, defeating an enemy will heal you equivalent to 12% of the character equipping this light cone's attack. This is a very bruiser style light cone. So if you're using something like Flora to take the brunt of your damage, you can use this to help you heal up over time. And if you're interested in healing over time, well, and you get a little bit lucky or you put the wallet down, you do have something irreplaceable, the 5-star Clara light cone, which is basically a better version of the Battle Pass light cone. Now, moving into the hunt path here, we have a ton of fantastic light cones, even at the 4-star and 3-star level. Silence Remains as well as Swordplay are going to both be very strong at boosting up your damage, giving you crit rate if there's 2 or less enemies on the field, while also boosting up your attack. If you've been playing Star Rail for a while, you will notice that some of the more difficult content only really involves like 1 or 2 really tanky enemies, whereas even if there are a couple other ones, you can dispatch them pretty quickly, making this a pretty consistent crit rate card that can increase that. We also do have Swordplay, which we just mentioned, which is going to give you a stacking damage buff bonus as long as this character only attacks the same enemy. If you swap to a different enemy, you're going to lose this bonus. You have to build it back up. So this is more of a boss destroying card and not as flexible as some of the other ones. For 3-star options, we're going to be moving into the arrows, which is going to give you a solid crit rate buff of up to 24% as a 3-star card. The downside of this though is that it's only going to be lasting 3 turns, and afterwards there's no way for this card to reestablish that crit rate gain. However, the arrows isn't the only one. We also have the darting arrow, which is something that you can utilize in longer battles because defeating an enemy will increase your attack by either 24 all the way up to 48% for 3 turns. This is going to be the best 3-star hunt light cone that you can equip, as this is a way to consistently increase your attack. So if you're a free-to-play player, look for the darting arrow, get some superimposition levels on it, and have a fun time there. We also do have the Return to Darkness, the featured Battle Pass Hunt light cone, and the start of our crit rate boosting bonanza. This is going to do a couple of things, giving you that 12% crit rate increase, but after performing a critical hit, you have a 16% fixed chance to dispel 1 buff on the targeted enemy. Dispelling is very positive here and very powerful in Honkai Star Rail, even though we haven't seen a lot of enemies that need to have their buffs dispelled. There are quite a few of them out there as you get into harder content. The downside of this card though is that, well, the proc rate for this is a fixed chance at 16%, meaning that you can't increase this chance to actually dispel by using the stat of effect rate, as that only works for base chances. The big plus for this fixed chance though, can't be resisted by enemies with high effect rate resist. You're just going to have to sort of pray that it happens, which could be a downside there. Now moving into powerful 5-star options, Sele's in the Night is an incredibly powerful card, giving you boosted crit rate and then also increasing your basic skill and ultimate damage based on your speed. We also do have Sleep Like the Dead, which is an incredibly powerful card for farming and especially strong on characters who can take multiple turns. This is going to allow you to get extra turn benefits of this giant 36% crit rate increase, even though it does have a 3-turn cooldown. If you can get extra turns so this doesn't last just one use, one skill, this can be an incredibly powerful card, as it also does come with a crit damage bonus. Last but not least, we have Cruising in the Stellar Sea, which is the Hunt light cone that you can grab in the Herda store from Simulated Universe. At max level, this gives you 16% crit rate at the bat, and then if an enemy is 50% HP or less when you attack them, you get an additional 16% crit chance increase. But it doesn't stop there. If the wearer defeats an enemy, you get a 40% attack buff for 2 turns. This is a fantastic card, and just like the Destruction one, plays so well on so many different hunt path characters, but you can only buy so many of these without having to farm them back up from the Herda shop, so you're going to have to make a decision on which of these powerful 5-star cards you're going to be using on your team. Going into ERUDITION, the specialty AoE damage dealers of Honkai Star Rail, we have some solid 3-star options for you to go over. Databank's going to increase the damage of your ultimate ability. Passkey is going to generate some extra energy so you can use your ultimate a little bit faster. And then we have Sagacity, which is going to increase your attack after your character uses your ultimate ability. Each of these 3-star light cones facilitates ultimate gameplay in some way. It just depends on whether you want to boost the damage, use it more, or get a little bit of a buff after you use it. The Seriousness of Breakfast is going to be a very good all-around ERUDITION card, as it's going to increase the damage for everything you do by 12%, and then giving you a stacking attack buff that stacks up to 3 times every time you defeat an enemy. For a more narrow but still powerful card, the Birth of the Self really buffs up follow-up attack damage, boosting it by 24%, or an additional 24% for a total of 48% if that target is below 50% health. Do note that Birth of the Self, though, only buffs up follow-up attack. It's not going to help your ultimate, your basic, or your skill. We also have Make the World Clamor, which is basically a bunch of the different 3-star cards smashed together. This is going to give you energy regeneration as well as increasing the damage of your ultimate. So if you're an ultimate loving ERUDITION player, this could be the card for you. But the all-star, all-purpose 4-star ERUDITION light cone is going to be Genius's Repose, which is going to give you an attack percent increase, but also give you a crit damage increase for 3 turns upon defeating an enemy. Now, early on, you might not have the right crit chance to facilitate the strength of this card, but once you guys start getting better relics and gear and set bonuses and start getting higher amounts of crit rate, this card's going to rise in the ranks of how strong it's going to be for your overall gameplay experience. Now, moving on to 5-star cards, we really only have 2 to talk about here. The first one's going to be Before Dawn, which is the big daddy version of the 4-star card we just talked about, as this increases the crit damage of the equipped character by 36%, as well as increasing your skill and ultimate damage by 18%. And then when you use your skill or ultimate, you will gain the ability Somnus Corpus, which will be consumed and increase your follow-up damage by 48% as well. As a general purpose card, this thing is fantastic as it buffs up basically everything except a basic skill, increasing ultimate damage, skill damage, giving that crit damage increase, and also boosting up follow-up attack damage on top of that. Then the final 5-star card here is Knight of the Milky Way, which has the ability of Meteor Swarm, which is going to be the big AoE 5-star ERUDITION card. For every enemy on the field, you're going to get an attack buff of 9% at Superimposition level 1 that can stack up to 5 times. And then in addition to that, when an enemy is inflicted with Weakness Break, the damage dealt by the wearer is going to increase by 30% for 1 turn as well. This is an AoE specialist card, so if you plan on fighting multiple enemies with your ERUDITION character, which guess what, is an AoE specialist path, this card's going to be a very nice inclusion into your build. Next up, we have Harmony, and we have a couple very powerful 3-star options to talk about right off the bat. Harmony has the Chorus card, which is going to give you a straight up 12% attack increase at level 5, and this will not go away in battle, making your buffer give you basically a small little extra buff. Then we have Meshing Cogs, which is going to allow your Harmony characters to do a little bit of extra ultimate generation, as it's going to give between 4 to 8 energy after getting hit or using an attack, and this can be triggered once per turn. Moving into some powerful 4-star options though, we have Past and Future, which is going to increase the damage of the ally that takes a turn after the equipped character by 16% after this equipped character uses their skill. Do you have access to a character like Bronya? Well, guess what? When you push someone up with Bronya, that character is guaranteed to be the next character after Bronya, and so they will get this buff. But if speed is your game, then Dance 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 is where you want to be. After the wearer of this card uses their ultimate, all allies' actions are advanced forward by 16%, and this will scale eventually all the way up to 24%. This is very nice on a character like Asta, who gives a speed buff, and then with this card, you will also push your team up and advance them forward in addition to the extra speed. This card is fantastic for characters in parties that want to take extra turns in comparison to the enemies. So this card can be definitely very useful in a lot of aggressive teams in Honkai Star Rail. And speaking of aggressive teams, the Battle Pass card, Carve the Moon, Weave the Clouds, is going to generate either an attack, a crit damage, or an energy regeneration buff every single time the wearer's turn begins or the battle begins as well. So it's definitely a solid card to include in your party. But where would we be without the overpowered 5-star card? But the battle isn't over. This light cone is going to increase the energy regeneration rate of the caster, and you will also regenerate 1 skill point when you use their ultimate on an ally. This effect can only be triggered after 2 uses of the wearer's ultimate, and then in addition to that, when their wearer uses their skill, the next ally is going to get a 30% damage buff. This is basically the 5-star Omega awesome version of Past and Future, and this card is definitely one of the best cards in Honkai Star Rail, as everything about this card is amazing. Energy regeneration, skill point gaining, and damage bonus all in one light cone weared by one Harmony character. It doesn't get much better than this. From the Masters of Buffs over to the Masters of Debuffs, Nihility has some extremely solid 3-star options. The Void is going to help you land those very important debuffs for 3 turns at the start of the battle, but do beware that after those 3 turns pass, this card is no longer going to affect you, and you'll be better off with something that would be better in a longer encounter. The Loop is going to help your Nihility character do more damage as long as the enemies are slowed, increasing the damage by 24 all the way up to 48%. If you did start and get lucky with Welts, you're looking to boost your damage, this 3-star light cone is right up your alley. We also have Hidden Shadow, which is going to increase the next basic attack damage equal to 60 up to 120% of your attack to the targeted enemy the turn after you use your skill. In early game, this is going to give you some solid boosts to your burst damage and also a little bit better damage off your basic attacks, which at that point in the time only have around a 50% attack multiplier, making this a solid card to use early on, but maybe something you'll want to replace as you gain levels in Honkai Star Rail. Now, the 4-star cards, Good Night and Sleep Well, Eyes of Prey, as well as Fermata are all very similar with each other. Fermata is going to increase your break effect and also increase the damage to enemies that are afflicted by shock or wind, and this effect also is going to apply to damage over time effects. Very similar to that is Eyes of the Prey, which is going to increase your effect hit rate by 20% and increase strictly dot damage by 24% as well. This will scale up to 40 and 48% if you can gain multiple copies of this, making this very effective at both landing debuffs and increasing just strictly your damage over time effects. Good Night and Sleep Well is going to increase the damage that you do by 12%, stacking up to 3 times for every debuff the enemy has, making this 36% at Superimposition level 1 and all the way up to a whopping 72% at level 5. These cards are very similar with each other. It just depends on, do you want more damage to everything that you do, like Good Night and Sleep Well? Do you need something like Fermata that's going to increase the damage you do to enemies with specific debuffs while also increasing your break effect? Or do you want to use something like Eyes of the Prey, which increases your hit rate, which allows you to land those debuffs, and then also increasing strictly your damage over time effects? You can't go wrong with either of these cards, but they do play slightly differently from each other. Now, the Battle Pass card, We Will Meet Again, is very similar to one of the 3-star card options we talked about earlier. As a Discourse in Arms, the ability is going to increase the damage that you do by 48% of your attack to a random enemy after you use a basic or skill, which, unlike Hidden Shadow, applies to both basics as well as skills and applies on every single turn that you use either one of those actions. So just like Hidden Shadow, it's a card that's there to boost up the damage of a Nihility character. However, as a Battle Pass card, it does feel a little bit weak, as most Nihility characters are focused on landing debuffs and doing damage over time effects. The 5-star Light Cone, In the Name of the World, is an incredibly powerful option, as it's basically all of the 4-star cards we talked about smashed into one, as it increases the wearer's damage to debuffed enemies by 24%, and then when the wearer uses their skill, the effect hit rate for that attack is increased by 18% and increases your attack by 24%. If you're looking for a very powerful light cone to use on your Nihility character in general, then this is the one for you, increasing your damage as well as your hit rate and also giving you an attack percent increase, facilitating more damage on top of that. Preservation also has some incredibly powerful options for us to go over, and the best one to tank down with is Day 1 of My New Life as a very powerful 4-star option. This is going to increase the defense of the wearer by 16%, while also decreasing the damage that your entire party takes, as this is going to increase the damage resistance of all allies by 8%. This card blocks a lot of damage while also increasing the ever so popular defense scaling preservation characters damage as well. An alternative to Day 1 is We Are Wildfire, that does have the damage decreasing effect, but it's not permanent like Day 1, as it only lasts for 5 turns. It also doesn't give a defense increase to the equipped character, but it will heal your whole party when you enter combat. So if you're farming up something, you're doing some material grinding, you have access to We Are Wildlife, you could possibly even drop a healer character out of your party entirely and just equip this light cone instead. But we do have some very solid 3-star options. Amber being one that's going to increase your defense, and then as you get more damage, increase your defense even further, increasing how tanky the actual equipped character is. Defense, the card, is going to restore the HP of the equipped character whenever they use their ultimate, which can help you self-heal your preservation character early on in your Honkai Star Rail journey. And then Pioneering is going to increase and restore HP based on the equipped character's max HP whenever they break an enemy's shield. The Battle Pass card, This Is Me, is going to give you an offensive option as a preservation card, as it not only increases the defense of the wearer, but also gives them extra defense scaling when they use their ultimate ability. Just be sure that your preservation character actually does do damage with their ultimate before you throw This Is Me on them. As it's a Battle Pass card though, it is a more niche and specific, as traditionally your preservation character isn't there to do damage, but is really there to tank up for the party. However, it does have that very small niche, as you can put this on your tanky preservation character, but help them do more damage so you can meet the cycle requirements in some of the floors of the Forgotten Hall. So keep this one in mind as you're going through and picking up your different Battle Pass cards. An incredibly powerful 5-star option is Moment of Victory, as this is going to increase your defense by a whopping 24%, while also increasing your effect hit rate by an additional 24%. It also is going to increase the chance for the wearer to be attacked by enemies, and then when you are attacked, it's going to give you a defense increase by 24% again until the end of the next turn. If you have a defensive preservation character that needs to land debuffs, such as even March 7th's freeze from her ultimate on other enemies, you're going to want to have this card on them. Do note though that unlike the 4-star options, Day One of My New Life, as well as We Are Wildfire, Moment of Victory doesn't have the damage resistance buff for the entire party. Texture of Memories is the 5-star Herta simulated world option, and it's going to give you a mixture of effect resistance as well as damage mitigation or self-shielding. If you're attacked and you don't have a shield, it will give you a shield once every 3 turns, and if you are attacked and have a shield, it will decrease the damage that you take by 12% at level 1 all the way up to 24% at level 5. This is a pretty powerful light cone, but do remember that you do have some very powerful defensive 4-star options before you buy this out of the Herta shop. Abundance has some pretty powerful 4 and 3-star options. One of my personal favorites being post-op Conversation, which increases your energy regeneration rate and also the increasing of your healing of your ultimate by 12%. This is going to facilitate not just stronger ultimates overall by increasing their healing, but also giving you access to more ultimates in general through the energy regeneration rate increase. Some 3-star options are Cornucopia, which is going to also give you that bonus healing increase. It just doesn't have the energy regeneration on it. However, it does also give you bonus healing on both your skill and your ultimate instead of just your ultimate. Early on, this should probably be the card that you should be using on your healer if you need more healing. However, if you want to generate more skill points, look for something like Find Fruit, which can give you energy for your entire party on entering the battle, or something like Multiplication, which is going to give you an action forward increase every time your healer uses their basic attack, allowing you to build up extra skill points either for future turns for them or other members of your team. If you need to resist a bunch of debuffs, then you have access to Perfect Timing, which is going to give you effect resist increase and also give you a healing bonus output increase based on a sub amount of your total effect resist, up to a total of 15% increased outgoing healing at level 1. I expect this card to scale a lot better as we know more about the effect resist stat and the exact amount you need to hit. But if you gain access to this card, keep it in your back pocket. You'll use it at a future date. Quid Pro Quo is a card that's going to give you random energy amounts to a different character every single turn, as it's going to give 8 energy to a random ally as long as they're below 50% at the start of the wearer's turn. This card is okay, but it doesn't increase your healing whatsoever on your Abundance character, which is why I like some of the other alternatives a little bit better. And then the Battle Pass card, Warmth Shortens Cold Nights, is going to increase the health of the equipped character and then also give you a little extra healing amount. When your Abundance character uses a basic or a skill, you will get a healing amount equal to 2% of their respective max health. If you find yourself not healing enough, I don't know if this card alone is going to get you over that threshold in some of the more difficult content like World 5, World 6 of Honkai Star Rail right now. This is pretty nice and is reminiscent of some of the other things we've seen in other games like Genshin Impact, such as the prototype Amber. However, we do have just increased healing overall with things like post-op conversion, as well as shared feeling. So keep those two in mind before you spend your battle pass on this card. And then the 5-star card, Time Waits for No One, is going to be a big card. It's going to give you 18% HP increase, and it's also going to increase your outgoing healing by 12%. But then in addition to that, whenever you heal anyone, it's going to take a look of the healing amount that you did, and the next time an ally uses a damaging skill, it's going to do additional damage based on the amount that you healed previously. So if you're looking to add a little bit of more damage to your team through your Abundance character and you have this card, go ahead, throw the light cone on, because time waits for no one. Yeah, I went there. Hopefully you guys can find some of your favorite light cones here. I do say card a lot because, well, traditionally they're cards in every other game I play, so I guess that's what it's gonna be. Take care.